Hello, welcome back to this session, which is a lovely discussion between May-Britt Moser and our selected students from all over Brazil. And if you're looking at the same gallery view of all these faces that I am, it is just such a pleasure to see the diversity, the wonderful diversity of Brazil represented on screen in this way. Now, you've all been carefully selected by a rigorous process, so our congratulations for being here. And this is absolutely your session, your chance to ask May-Britt whatever you like. My job is really just to get you to ask questions. And I must ask the audience also to forgive my poor pronunciations of the names, but off we go. Now, if we can start, please, with Luisa. Do you want to ask a question?
Thanks, Adam. My name is Luisa Lorenzani Grillo. I'm studying medicine at Federal University of Espírito Santo, and I'm delighted to be here talking to you guys. Mai, you know that we women carry this burden like an obligation to want to be a mom, to look after the house chores, and we are like to believe that we can't be mothers and scientists at the same time, or women and scientists, or women and nothing else. Do you, as a woman, mother, and a scientist, felt this burden over you? How did you split your time between work and children? And what would you like to encourage us young women to pursue our way in science?
Thank you for that question. So, of course, I have been very fortunate to have a career in science, to follow my curiosity, and still having two wonderful children and a very supportive husband. So I think that I've been extremely lucky, but I was also very naive, because I thought it was a human right to get a family. And I didn't think of the problems, and I didn't want to see the problems. And somehow we got it to work we even asked our histology technician, who had never being babysitting before, to babysit our children, and even brought him with us to conferences, so that because I didn't want to leave my children. So of course, I don't have a general answer, but I think it's a human right to have children. And I think that our children, even though they have lived a different life, being traveling with us and also being in the lab, they have a much bigger family than normal children, because they have uncles and aunts and cousins around in the whole world. And now I can't, if it wouldn't have been for the COVID situation, I couldn't have stopped them from traveling, because they think that the whole world is their family. So but to find out how to do this, it's very difficult. And we families, we had some ideas that could we go together to look after our children, so one day for one family and then the next day for another family and such things. So there are things that is possible to do if you organize yourself. But of course, I feel ashamed, as I said, because Norway is a country where it's okay to have the children in the nurse and in the kindergarten, and it's a country where we also are allowed to take maternity and paternity leave, so that you can stay with your baby when you are breastfeeding. So all these things, I know that this is different in different countries, but I believe in you, and you have the right to have a family. And I know that you are so smart that there are solutions that we don't see now that you can find that could also help other families in the future.
Thank you very much indeed, May-Britt. Yes, please, Bruna.
Hi, I'm Bruna Malagoli, and I'm a PhD student at the graduate program in health science at Federal University of Uberlândia, located in the state of Minas Gerais. Considering the position that women currently occupy in science, in your opinion, what kind of public policies are necessary to improve women's belonging to science? Thanks very much.
I think the first thing to do is that we females don't feel that we are female scientists, but we are scientists. Because if we believe in ourselves, then other people also believe in ourselves. If we always excuse ourselves, or we try to hide or do something like that because we are females, then we are working against ourselves. And I'm sure that most men don't think about female scientists as females, but as scientists. So we should go around the panel here and ask, because it's what you do, the questions you have, the way you address the questions, that is what is matter. It doesn't matter if you are a female or a male. It's the quality, and that you believe in your work, and that you work hard on things that you believe, and that you are honest with your data and with your questions. So then be proud of the scientist you are, whatever is your background or whatever. You just have to believe in yourself, and then other people will believe in you.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for the two wonderful questions so far. I'd just like to point out that, of course, you're asking these questions on behalf of also all the audience who are not able to ask questions. So it's really lovely that you formulate such beautiful questions. Thank you. Angelica, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Angelica Martins. I'm studying civil engineering at the Federal University of Rondônia, located in the capital, Porto Velho. I'm part of the undergraduate research program, and I'd like to ask the following question. The city I live in has its cultural background influenced by immigrants from different regions of the country. Comparing with the academic field, how do you see the importance of cultural diversity in the development of science?
Oh, thank you for that wonderful question. So, as we already have discussed in this other panel, when Edward Moser, my close colleague, and I started our lab, only two of us, in 1996, it was extremely important for us with diversity. Not because it was fashion or that it was good politics or anything like that, but because we think that for being creative, to get the best questions, you need input from people that are different from yourself, that have a different background, both when it comes to what field people have been trained in, and also the cultural background and all this, because if you get all this diversity, then you can start to ask the really good questions in a good way. If you just clone yourself, you're finished with science. Just forget about it. Science is like art. It's creativity, and you need inputs.
May-Britt, can I just quickly ask, do you think that people from different places think about science differently? Are they different sorts of scientists, or is there just one sort of scientist?
So at least, of course, we are all very different, but what I think is so interesting is when we start to talk, how similar we are. And especially scientists. I think scientists are a kind of a strange family, all of us, that we belong to this same family because we are curious, we want to ask questions, and we want to get the answer. And we have also experienced this blessing of when you get an answer to your question, then it's, wow, I understand something that I didn't understand yesterday. What a feeling. And I think all of you have experienced this, even if you just sat there and tried to solve a mathematical puzzle. And when you got the answer after working on this puzzle a whole day, then, wow, it feels so good. And this is a secret that we shouldn't tell people who are not scientists, how fantastic it is to be a scientist, because then the whole world are going to end up as scientists.
Okay. Erili, if I pronounced that right, I'm sorry.
Hello there, my name is Erili Ricarte. I'm a journalism student at the Federal University of Pernambuco. I'm so pleased to be talking to you. Well, my question is linked to both journalism and science areas, because for many years these fields were influenced by philosophical positivism theories that say science should be neutral and objective. Here in Brazil, for example, this mindset continues to exist, and many scientific data or news are rejected whenever they can be applied to shed light on social inequalities, for example. So in your opinion, Dr. May, is science really unbiased and aloof to political issues? That is, can science and politics be dissociated from one another? Thank you.
I think I would have to give this question back to you, because I feel that I'm not qualified for addressing your question. But I like your idea about qualitative and quantitative science, because when I was young, then I started first with mathematics and physics, and then, oh, qualitative, what is this? But of course, in order to start a science project, you have to do the qualitative work both first and during the project. And that is also why we have pilot experiments and so on, that we test some qualitative ideas. But when it comes to politics and science, then we could also go to fake news that probably you are touching. And I think we just have to believe that since we believe so much in science ourselves, then people has to believe because they see we believe so much. And we believe in data, we believe in questions. And then if it's possible for you, when you become a journalist, to show what science is doing for humanity. Of course, there are also bad things following science, but there's so much good that follows science. And even if science invented plastic, we can still find ways to get rid of the plastic with science. So you need science in order to get a better life.
Thank you, May-Britt. Thank you. Thank you for the question. And Ana Paula, please.
Hello, Mai. It's a wonderful pleasure to meet you. I'm Ana Paula from the Federal University of Pará. You mentioned mathematics and physics a lot. So, and to me, a big part of being creative in science is this transdisciplinarity, this interdisciplinarity. So I was wondering, what was the role that transdisciplinarity played in your scientific achievements? And how do we find time to explore other areas while also focusing on our own work?
That's also a brilliant question. So thank you all for having so brilliant minds that you ask me all these fantastic questions. No, so since I'm in neuroscience, that is interdisciplinary by itself. And especially nowadays, in our field, and I work with spatial navigation and memory and big cell ensembles, now we have got techniques so that we can see thousands of cells being active in the brain of a moving animal. And of course, when you start to get so massive data, because one cell has then so many spikes during just a few minutes, that it's too complex if you don't understand mathematics and physics. But of course, not all of us, I'm a psychologist. So I even though I started out with physics and mathematics, I can't do all these modeling and calculations and all these things. I have to collaborate with fantastic South American people, for example, Soledad Gonzalez, who is sitting in the next office of mine, coming from Argentina. And she is trained in physics, and she can make these models and she can do this analysis together with us. But what is important for us is that we can talk. Communication is extremely important. So if I don't understand what she's saying because she's speaking physics, and if she wouldn't then have understood what I said because I'm speaking neuroscience language, then it would be hope without hope. So, but we manage, and that is again, we talked about diversity, and that is so interesting. So we in our lab we have people from physics, from mathematics, from biology, from medicine, from psychology, from all kinds of topics, and all this. It's like it's going into a melting pot, and out comes the most wonderful ideas and data that you can think of, because we allow ourselves to talk with people who know so much more than we do, for example, in mathematics.
Thank you. Gabrielle, please.
Hi, May. I'm Gabriel Coimbra, and I'm studying medicine at the Vale do Rio Doce University. It's located in the state of Minas Gerais, in the southeast region. So we know that making mistakes is important and is part of anyone's learning process, but the fear of feeling and being ridiculed on social media and public, etc., has never been greater, at least in Brazil. So what we can do so that the fear of making mistakes doesn't prevent young people from pursuing their dreams?
So this is so important, Gabriel, because I think I said to you that we scientists, we are like artists, and we need creativity, and we need to believe in ourselves. And then these negative emotions, like being afraid, being angry, or all these other emotions, they will just block our creativity. So we have to work on our anxiety, and as you say, science is about high risk and high gain. But sometimes we need to also do something that is safer, so that we can point to, we don't only fail, we do something that is good. And I think if we have good supervisors, they are able to say, okay, now we have worked on this question for so and so long time, and this didn't give us, we don't understand the result, then can we turn this to something different and something positive, and addressing it with maybe different methods or doing something different? Then science is not about being afraid to fail, but it's to find a new way to address the question. So I think if we, so it's also about, so people ask me, oh, how is it to get the Nobel Prize, and how hard did you work to get the Nobel Prize? And I said, I never worked hard to get the Nobel Prize. I worked hard because I was driven crazy by the questions that I wanted to have the answer to. So if you're driven crazy to get the answers to questions, then you sort of forget about all the failures, I think, hopefully, and then think, okay, this is difficult, maybe it's possible to look at this in a different way. And then the road is blocked just now, but maybe we can do it in a different way.
Miguel, you wanted to follow up on this?
Yes. Hello, Dr. Moser. So my name is Miguel Quintela. I'm an MD, PhD student at Federal University of São Paulo. So my question is about translational research. So translational research has gained a lot of focus in the past decades. Many scientists, however, believe that always trying to have an immediate impact with their research narrows creative discoveries. So how free should science, basic science, be?
So that's a very difficult question, but I understand what you say, and I think what we see now with the vaccine, which is so important for us, with the mRNA vaccine, people started to study yeast. And you as a medical doctor, you think, not you, but if you should think about, you should rescue patients, not think about yeast. But if you had worked with yeast and you had discovered how the DNA, RNA, mRNA work, and you could then from this work show that it's possible to develop the mRNA vaccine from the knowledge from yeast, then after 20 years, you would have been a fantastic doctor, if you see what I mean. So it's the problem we have with basic science is that it's so slow. And we don't know, we can't say it's important to study yeast. But we know it's important because we need to understand the nature around us. And sometimes the answers we get from our questions will rescue humanity. And sometimes it will enrich us so that we understand more, so that we can see photos of the black hole. We don't need it, but it's good for us to understand the world. That is what is driving humanity forward.
Thank you. What beautiful concepts we're dealing with here. Agatha, please.
Hi. Hello, good morning, Dr. Moser. Such an honor to be here with you. My name is Agatha. I study medicine in University of Brasilia. I'd like to begin a discussion about the life of scientists. It is not always full of rewardings and excitement. Sometimes it can be very lonely and it can be frustrating sometimes. I imagine you faced many of these difficulties during your career, and here, especially for us in Brazil, that we don't have many government support or private resources coming to this area, especially now that science is being so questioned and unbelieved. I'd like you to tell us a little bit of how you faced those difficulties.
As I said, I've always been that kind of person who is too naive to see difficulties, if you see what I mean. I'm from the West Coast in Norway, which has horrible weather, and still I say to people that I have a sun in me, so I don't see the bad weather, and I think that is how science has been for me too. That, so as I said, I worked closely with Edward, and sometimes we have had the responsibility for, and now also we have the responsibility for 130 people. And we don't know if we have a new center of excellence that we're going to apply to get now in 2 years. And if we don't have that, then we don't have a job to all these people. And that's a horrible situation to be in. But we could decide to focus on the horrible part of it, or we could decide to just believe. We think that we find solutions. And somehow, if you believe in solutions, they will appear. I feel like I'm stupid now that I'm sitting here and talking magic, but I think that if we believe in that things will go well, then people around us start to believe too. And if people around us start to believe, then we are a whole crowd of people who believe that this will work. And maybe it doesn't work the way we wanted it to work, but maybe it can work in a different way and we can still do something interesting. But forgive me that I talk like I'm horrible and stupid, because I know how difficult it is to not have funding, and I've been hungry in my in my life, and so I understand that, but I believe that it's possible to find solutions.
Thank you. Katie, you have a follow-up.
Hi, my name is Katie Oliveira, and I am PhD student at Federal University of Roraima. Brazil has the greatest biodiversity of the planet. On the other hand, this biodiversity is poorly represented in scientific production. In our country, science and education generally suffer financial cuts at first sign of crisis. So, how is it possible to overcome inequality in scientific production in countries that don't support science and technology development?
Mm-hmm. So in Brazil, you are so many people. And you are brilliant people. You have brilliant minds around you. If you start to believe that you can do something to change something, you can. And I don't know if you saw this tiny autistic girl from Sweden, Greta Thunberg. She was alone and she was teased because she was having these difficulties. But she believed in what she was doing. And even Trump was afraid of her. And if you saw Malala, she was raised in Pakistan. She was not allowed to go to school, but she had a dad who was a teacher and he supported her. And now she is having this fantastic organization where she is saving females and helping them to get education. And you have so many brilliant people around you. If you hear this word crisis all the day and you believe in crisis, then you get sad, you get tired, you get angry, and you get anxiety. That is what bad leaders need. People who are afraid, people who don't believe, people who think that there is a big crisis that can't be changed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for both question and answer. Renata, please.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, Adam and Professor May-Britt. My name is Renata Noleto. I'm a master's student on biomedical science at Federal University of Delta do Parnaíba, located in the state of Piauí. My question is related to the other we have discussing now. Nowadays, we live under a constant pressure to publish only positive results in a high-impact journal. This causes us a huge stress and makes some of us give up on our careers. In front of this, I would like to ask you for an advice as a scientist and as a psychologist to try to minimize this problem and to help us improve in our mental health. Thank you.
So again, I feel like I should shut up because I don't have any solutions for you. But I believe in you. And I believe that if you have a good question that you address in the best way, if it's not published in Nature or Science or all these journals, you should be proud of the story. And that is what is counting. And the story should be so solid that you are proud. And you know, my supervisor, even in Norway, they are counting papers like crazy. And they say you don't get a position, you don't get a grant if you don't have enough publications, and there should be blah, 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 blah. So my supervisor, and I finished with him in 1995, at that time when everybody should just count and count and count. He said, if you can publish one excellent paper every 5th year, that is showing quality. That is that you, and of course you can't follow that advice because then you don't get your PhD. But you see, to at least try to do our best to address the questions we have the best way, and just be proud of it because we've done that.
At some point, it comes down to a job, though, doesn't it? And that's the trouble. That, you know, what do you do if you're on soft money after soft money and you need a job?
So I can tell what we do in our lab, because of course we don't have the magic stick and give out good papers to everybody, and good papers take 5-6 years. So what we try to do is to get people to collaborate, because then you can share the burden. And then say that there are 3 people who can collaborate, then they can, okay, you have the responsibility, most of the responsibility in this paper, then you are the first author, maybe this other person did a tiny bit more and then can be star marked and then be the second first author. And then by these collaborations, then people can get beautiful PhDs and a job.
Thank you. Raquel, please.
Thank you. I'm Raquel Queiroz. I'm a medical student at the University of Fortaleza in the state of Ceará, Brazil. First of all, thank you very much for the inspiration that your work brings to all of us. The discoveries of how the brain decode space, time, and memory have been crucial to understand and to find brain disease. How do you see the contributions of neuroscience in the context of coronavirus pandemic? And do you believe that understanding the brain can help people to deal with difficult situations like the pandemic?
Well, that was extremely difficult, Rachel. So, of course, I believe that we need to understand the brain. And what we also know is that long-lasting effects of the COVID, that affects the brain. And to study that, to find out, can we prevent that, would also help, hopefully. So to understand the brain, that is, who are we and what goes wrong in our brains when we have a disease, either it's COVID or what it is. But also, I think that it helps, at least for me as a psychologist, to think about, okay, if I'm afraid one day, or if I'm angry, I know where it sits. And then I can blame that part and just be quiet. You see what I mean? Because I understand that this is not something that is coming from outside. It's in here. So I just have to deal with it myself. So I know that was a stupid way to say it, but I believe in understanding the brain. Maybe that was what I should have answered you.
So many fantastic topics and questions being brought up. I'm trying to ask questions in roughly the order they're appearing, but I'm sorry if you have to wait a long time, but we'll get to everyone. Lucas, please.
Good morning, good afternoon. I am Lucas. I study pharmacy at the Federal University of Mato Grosso. My question is, I'd like to ask you if you had any financial support throughout your researches, and if so, how did it help your studies? And I'd also like to ask if it got easier for you to get funding after the achievement of the Nobel Prize and the recognition brought by it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. So I'm from a poor family, and in Norway we have a system where we can get a loan from the state, from the government. So I survived on loans that I would have to pay back afterwards. And then so that was for my studies. But then as a PhD student, I applied together with Edward to the Research Council. And at that time in Norway, they wanted everyone to be equal. So that meant that since Edward and I applied the same year, we wanted to work on the same structure at that time, the hippocampus in the brain. We had the same supervisor. We were married. We didn't have children at that time, but that still we were too close. And we lived in Oslo. Then we shouldn't get, at least not both of us. And as I said, I was so naive. So I told my supervisor, of course we will get. And he tried to get me into applied science and study alcohol and so on. And I said, no, I believe in my questions and I want to do this. And then finally, both of us got, and it was an accident, probably. Well, I don't know, but we got it. But before that, we were hungry, because sometimes we didn't have food, and even with our two small children, then when we got 2 jobs, we didn't go for those 2 jobs before we knew that we could do the science that we wanted to do. So you can say that we have been extremely narcissistic when it comes to science. Let me do science, and then I forget about all the other things. But again, I've been spoiled, and I don't know who spoiled me. I was just very lucky.
And has the Nobel Prize made it easier to get money?
Yes and no, because I live in a country where if you have, since it's equal, then you shouldn't have too much. So if you have something, you shouldn't get more. So in both ways, of course. The Nobel Prize, the beauty of the Nobel Prize is that it's a quality stamp. And then people start to believe that what we are doing is quality work. And that is what we are so proud of, that we really try to give out quality work. So that helps us. But of course, there's no guarantee. And Edward he just got a big grant from the ERC, but the year before they said no way. He wasn't even asked to come for an interview with the same questions. So yeah, that is science. It's difficult, it's awful, but it's so fun.
As you say, keep on trying, believe in yourself, just keep going. Yeah.
Be naive, I think.
Roger, please.
Hello, I'm Roger Borges. I am a PhD student from the Federal University of ABC, located at the state of São Paulo. Science is a driving force for technological innovation, which is one of the bases of economic development. However, since developing countries are underrepresented in science, they do not face the same technological innovation as developed countries do. In this sense, collaboration between developing and developed countries can play a significant role in the decrease of disparities and inequalities in our world. So my question is, how could we improve and promote the international scientific collaboration to decrease economic disparities and inequalities?
Thank you for that question, Roger. Again, I feel so stupid when I answer your wonderful questions, because I feel that I shouldn't address your questions in the way I do, but I see things only from my own perspective, and I have to apologize for that. But what we try to do is that we think that we could be a hatching institute, and if we then get people to us, we can train people in our scientific values, so that these people can go back to their own countries and be missionaries and scientists at the same time, if you see what I mean. And we have been hatching people from so many countries, and we believe that that is the way to go. At least that is one way to try to help.
Thank you. Juliana, please.
Hello, it's such a great honor to be here. I'm Juliana Bustamante. I'm a PhD candidate at Health and Environment Program at Univille, University of Joinville Region in Santa Catarina State, Brazil. I would like to ask you, how do you think our disconnection from nature influence our perception and behavior towards environment and society?
Thank you, Juliana, for that beautiful question. I think that to be close to nature and to have respect for the nature and for other human beings, that is the essential values for humanity. And that should be the essential values for science too. And that is also I work with animals. And since I do that, I need to respect the animals and treat them the best we can. So in our lab, we have the slogan that in order to have excellent science, you need happy animals and happy people. And in order to know when animals are happy, you have to know about the nature and how happy animals are in the nature. And you also have to protect the nature. And I speak to you coming from the most beautiful country with the most beautiful nature. And it's so important that science is connected to this and try to protect what we have, because it's so easy to ruin. So I would love if that would be possible. And there's so much we can learn. And as we talked about with Miguel, for example, even studying yeast, which is so low on the evolutionary tree, is so important for us. So to understand our nature is extremely important.
Thank you. Jessica, please.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Machado, and I'm a master's student in archaeology at Federal University of Recôncavo da Bahia. My question is, while in archaeology we interact with several fields of science, we mostly interact with the humanities. What are your thoughts about the contribution of humanities to science in general?
So, how do we define? Because it's so huge, that field. So it depends on how we define this field. So to turn it around, and I think all topics in science are extremely important if they're done well. If the questions are good and the data are good, then I think all fields are extremely important. But exactly how? Maybe you have some ideas, Jessica, because I would love to hear.
I mean, anthropology and archaeology, and see how they can add to science, because we are so renegade for along the last century, and now science. How can we contribute more to physics and biology and the other sciences to think together?
Yeah, but I think you shouldn't think about how you should contribute. Think rather, how can the other fields contribute to your field to make it interesting, and so that you get excellent questions that you can address even with physics, if you collaborate with physics. And when it comes to anthropology and studies of all these things, there's so many ways to address questions. I think to have a diverse community studying such questions like you talk about is very interesting. But you answered your question yourself in a brilliant way. Thank you.
I got it. Thank you.
And Jessica's touching on such an important and enormous issue of the challenge of having every discipline represented and funded and appreciated, because there is a pecking order. And even, we've been arguing today for the value of science and keeping science going, but then keeping things going often comes at a cost, and somebody else says, well, okay, we'll keep science and we'll lose history or whatever. So that's a whole nother debate, which I guess, it's too big a topic for now, but it's absolutely intersecting with the conversation we're having now. So, Antonio, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Antonio Zezinski, and I am a PhD student of education in La Salle University in Rio Grande do Sul. So, in our research program, we have been studying second language learning, and literature has shown the advantages of bilingual education over a monolingual one. So, Professor, my question is, what is the neuroscientific basis for bilingual education? Thank you.
Bilingual education, and so I maybe I didn't understand the question. So what can I? You said it so beautifully, but I don't understand how I should address your question. Sorry.
I mean the way, for example, we know there are parts of the brain that are responsible for second language learning, for a second language. So how we can use this in education, how we can use this to help improve also in our work, in our researches.
Yeah, then I have to wind back to my psychology studies. So at least what is important, as you know much better than I do, when you want to learn languages, is to try to learn it very early on. Because that is the time when your brain is like a sponge for other languages. So I think that we have some countries in Europe where they are doing this dubbing. So they don't, so on television and movies, they don't let people be exposed to other languages except their own language. So and in those countries, then it was much more difficult for the students to learn English, for example. So that is very important that people are exposed to the different languages and very early on. And if people have, or if children have bilingual parents, for example, you can just see how elegantly they can switch between different contexts, and they excuse their parent who doesn't know Portuguese, for example, because then they start to translate to English or Norwegian or whatever. So that is one way that I'm thinking. And we know that, for example, Chinese and Japanese, they can't distinguish between R and L if they're not exposed to it very early on. Then they have to really work hard. So it's about the effort you put into learning a new language. Yeah.
Thank you. Talking of working hard, May-Britt, you're working very hard. We're going through all these questions at such a perfect pace. Thank you so much for these wonderful answers. And of course, let's continue with the questions. So Raquel, another Raquel, please.
Hi, Mai. Before anything, I must say that it's an honor for me to be here and talk to you. My name is Raquel Lubambo, and I study marine biology in Pontifical Catholic University of Rio. And as I work with scientific communication, my question for you is, considering the huge denialism in Brazil, in which researchers and scientists are not taken seriously, what do you think is the best and more efficient way for scientific communication to take?
So your field, for example, is perfect to get people curious. And I'm just thinking about exhibitions already. And as I told somebody else today, that when I was a child and people, my teachers brought me to the beach and started to tell about what I saw there, I was just in heaven. And to do that, and now with virtual reality and so on, you don't even need to go down to the beach. And if you can go down, since you have this diversity as you have in Brazil, you can just go there for an excursion and show them. And even adults, they can't stop thinking about that. This is just so exciting. So I think that to show, and then to explain, and then let people ask questions, and if it's possible to find answer to some of the questions, I think that is the way that people start to learn. And again, like we talked about earlier, we talked about these negative words that are so important, and important that we don't marry with these negative words, like denial. I realize that there are many people who don't want to know, but there are not so many. Many people are just either lazy or are not exposed, or at least not aggressive against knowing. So again, I think by just changing the way we are thinking about the word, and not thinking of that the word is full of people that are angry, it's full of denial, crisis, horrible. Let's celebrate. When we see a child with stars in the eyes and learning something, there's one child then. And if there's one, I can assure you there will be another one. And let's celebrate them.
Thank you. Romulo.
So, hi, Mai. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Romulo Neres. I'm a PhD candidate in immunology at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. I study viral infections. And as Raquel said before, and also as you discussed earlier, denialism has been like a huge problem worldwide, Brazil included, as you discussed. And the problem is that the denialism is not only present in the population, sometimes even specialists, researchers that are considered to be experts in some field, they support denialist positions over other science topics. How would you deal or address the denialism inside the academy?
You know, like my dad said, people are the same or different, whatever they do. So even in academia, even older people, young people, people are people. And even among Nobel laureates, if we can put them on a stage, some of them are so stupid. and not like me, because you ask me question and I can't answer your questions in an intelligent way. So that is humans, that we are, some deny, some are aggressive, but we are so much more than only one thing. So I think about people like, do you have these blankets in Brazil that consist of small squares? So so it looks like a jigsaw puzzle. So I think of one human being as such a jigsaw puzzle. And one part of the puzzle has the label denial. And one has aggression. And one has stupidity, but sometimes there's also so much clever in the same person. So to just say, okay, even though it is a very well-educated doctor in my hospital, or a professor who is showing denial. Okay, maybe not denial for everything. And then just ignore this ignorance and forgive that even the professor doesn't know better. And then maybe one day, this professor will change his or her mind. So, and I think also, if we start to look for denial or aggression or other things, we will see it. If we look for people who care, and even in the same person, suddenly people who didn't care before could suddenly start to care. Because I believe in this self-fulfilling prophecies. But I don't know. As I said, I really don't know. So what do you think yourself?
I think that, yeah, this is quite problematic when we try to think in situations like the one we are living now, the pandemics and this. Because we expect that everyone's going to just agree what usually evidence points. But yeah, as you said, we believe what we believe. Sometimes you cannot change what someone believes. And the main problem for me, it's not even the personality or the denialism trace in this person, is that usually this can resonate to the public, and the problem is when the overall population starts to look to this person as a reference in the field that, like, this person is denying or trying to discredit them.
Yeah, but there are always annoying people. and if we give the stage to annoying people, then they will take it. So if we ignore the annoying people and rather believe, okay, if this person denies that there is a virus that is dangerous, then I don't deny it. And I can tell, again, a few people. And if you can rescue a few people by telling them, be careful, that is so fantastic. Then don't care about this person that denies it, because it's not your duty to change the person who is not willing to change. It's your duty to try to help those people that there is hope for, that will change. And then you can help maybe 2 or 3 people. And if all of you do that in the whole Brazil, the Brazil will finally just end up with the 3-4 denial people, and the rest will. Maybe. We hope.
Yeah,
Pray.
we hope.
We pray for you.
Lovely thought. We are absolutely out of time, but there's one question from a Lucas who hasn't asked a question before. So if you could just go, just very quick question, very quick answer, May-Britt.
Thank you. My name is Lucas Ribeiro. I am studying bioprocess and biotechnology engineer at São Paulo State University. My question is about the COVID-19 situation and the other infectious disease. I think that the global health crisis which we're living in has shown that the solution for new era problems depends on scientific knowledge. In my opinion, biotechnology itself has a fundamental role in battling COVID-19, and it's probably one of your main weapons to fight against the next world problems. In your opinion, how can we as a scientific community stop future pandemics and stop disease outbreaks in their early stage, being that they could happen anywhere in the world?
Thank you for that question. So I think, again, one science direction cannot rescue humans. We need psychologists who can change the mind of denial people. We need to understand how things work. And we need biotechnology, we need physics in order to understand these processes. And then there are more specific questions, as we talked about yeast. We need to understand yeast in order to understand how these viruses work, and so on. So there are specific questions, and then there are more global questions. And science is necessary for all these questions in order to stop pandemic. And we also and we need political science, because what we haven't been touching and we don't want to touch is politics. But we need to do something with that too. And the way we do something with that is to believe in the good and believe in science.
Thank you, May-Britt. So we must stop. But first of all, May-Britt, thank you for working so terribly hard and answering all these amazingly good questions. I think we've been so privileged to listen to such thoughtful questions expressed so eloquently. And for you who's not visited Brazil, this has been particularly like a tour of Brazil, that you've gone to every different region, pretty much. Now, I am aware that Bianca, who is raising her hand, is the only person in the whole lot who hasn't actually asked a question. So Bianca, we'd love to hear from you. We've got to finish, but quickly.
Yes, thank you, Adam. Sorry, I was trying to raise my hands, but I also have an issue here. So, hi everyone, I'm Bianca. I'm from the Federal University of São Carlos in the state of São Paulo, and I'm a 4th-year PhD student in organic chemistry. And actually, my question goes in the same direction that the others' questions. So, the international scientific partnerships are very important, especially for the developing countries to strengthen their research base. So I'd like to ask you, in your opinion, how to motivate the developed or middle-income countries to establish these collaborations in a reward system that prioritizes number and, of course, the quality of publications? And what should you say to underrepresented students or researchers from these developing countries who would like to apply to a top-ranked university? And I think that will be the last question. So I'd like just to say that's a really big honor for all of us to share this space with you, May, to discuss about such important topic, especially given the current scenario in our country. So we want to thank the event organizing committee for such a wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Bianca, beautifully phrased. And your question was so big and so important. And I'm going to give May-Britt about 10 seconds to say something. So good luck, May-Britt.
Yeah, so again, I send the responsibility back to you. You have to be proud of yourself. You have to be proud of the science you're doing and show off, because then if you believe in yourself, believe in your questions, then you can build something that is unique. And I believe in you.
Thank you, May-Britt. Well, I'm sorry, but we really have to stop. From my perspective, what an honor to have been part of this. It's been a joy. Thank you all so very much. And thank you to the audience who've been with us.
And thank you for being so kind with me.
So yes, wave goodbye to the audience. And what's going to happen now is there's going to be another short break before we meet Serge Roche for another discussion with another group of students. What's going to be shown during the break is a panel discussion, a short panel discussion from a 2017 dialogue. And it's on the question of, it continues with the same theme set by David Gross. It's the question of what is scientific truth. On it are two Nobel laureates, the immunologist Peter Doherty and the economist Joe Stiglitz, and also Helga Novotny, who is the former president of the European Research Council, who have just funded the grant that May-Britt mentioned, that Edvard has just received, in a beautifully neat sewing up of the end of this. So thank you to you all, and please let's roll the video. Bye-bye.